Hi, and welcome to Produce Talks, the CPMA podcast. I am your host and CPMA Education Manager, Jason Gorley. Welcome to part 2 of this podcast. But before we get started, Selena's just walked in. Hey, Selena, why are you here? You already told us about this month's Fresh Health Award winner.
Well, Jason, I had to run right back. I was just at the grocery store, and I was so happy to see the Half Your Plate logo on all kinds of packaging. Bags of carrots, bags of spinach, beets, potatoes, you name it. The Half Your Plate logo is everywhere. So, if you're a member and you've got your packaging or boxes in the grocery store, let me know. We can talk about putting the Half Your Plate logo on there and getting more visibility for your commodity. Email me at skarkash@cpma.ca. Thanks, Jason.
Thanks, Selena. Now, before we get started, remember that you can subscribe, rate, and review us on iTunes, the Google Play Store, or your favorite podcast catcher. You can also check out elearning.cpma.ca. On there you can find information about our Produce Basics and our Produce Essentials credential programming. Welcome to part 2, where we continue our conversation with industry media on trends and innovations that they think are important to the success of the produce industry. On this episode, we are touching base with Maggie Gafrida from the Produce News, Matthew Ugg from Fresh Food Portal, Dr. Sara Celik from Grocery Business. Here we go! Is Maggie Gafrida. She's the social media editor and video host for the Produce News. Maggie, thanks for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me.
We're asking everybody kind of the same question, which is, what trend or innovation have you seen in the industry in the past year that you think is going to keep changing the industry moving forward? And you guys have picked one that's kind of, it's been talked about, but it's interesting because right now you're looking at not just, oh, the millennials are coming, but you're really looking at it like the way it is, the millennials are here. So how are millennials changing the produce industry?
Yeah, definitely that's something that we have seen and focused on a lot in the past, I would say like 2 to 3 years. It's really interesting and fun for us, me especially, because I myself am, younger in this industry, and it's been really cool to see what all the younger people are doing to make an impact and change in the produce industry. And I noticed in particular, of course, social media. We've kind of grown up with that at our fingertips. So it's been really cool to watch how younger people are using that to really help elevate the companies and businesses that they're at, and to push their products more using different social media platforms, and really make a big difference with just getting their voices out there and kind of showing the world all that they have to offer in a different way. And I think that's something that will continue to grow.
So you think the millennials are really, where they're making the big impact is in a lot of the marketing that's coming out?
Definitely, yeah. It's interesting too, because I was just interviewing a girl earlier this morning who is a marketing manager at her company, and she was talking about how social media has just really changed their company in particular, and the way that they help to promote their products, especially the use of bloggers. They've been doing a lot of work partnering with bloggers to help promote their products. And one thing that she was saying was how consumers really go towards social media influencers and bloggers these days when they want kind of advice on something new to cook, or like a new recipe or a new product to try, because it's kind of that idea of trusting like a friend, and it's their, your friend's advice, opposed to having kind of like a more old school ad kind of pushed in your face. It's like you're hearing something from a friend and they really liked it, and so it makes you kind of want to try it too. So she was saying that that's been huge for their business, and something that's kind of just added a different element to it as well.
You're saying the brands aren't necessarily trying to build themselves so much as they're connecting with influencers that are already out there?
Yeah, connecting with people who can promote their products as well. And just it's a great way to help spread the message and get more people interested. And it's really neat to see how social media has evolved from being something that was just connecting friends to one another. And now it's this whole business thing as well. And it's advertised using social media. There's different ways to do that through Facebook and Instagram now. And you don't even have to really actually pay for the advertising with Facebook or Instagram. You can kind of just use regular posts as a way to promote products. And
topics that we were told this is something you have to pay attention to 5 years ago. 10 years ago. With the millennials coming, with social media on the rise, we're in that space now. I'm not a millennial. I'm not a Gen X or a baby boomer. I'm in that little middle bracket. They've decided we're Zennials, so I'm kind of in the in-between. So I don't get Instagram.
No? Oh, that's my favorite.
Let's talk about branding with Instagram. Yeah, is it a big thing now with millennials? Like,
Yeah.
what's the power of Instagram, I guess?
Yeah, that's funny because I feel like Instagram, probably in the past 2 to 3 years, has really taken off, and especially with businesses using it now. Actually, I think it was just within the past year they kind of launched a different like business profile that you can use on Instagram if you are a company or someone trying to promote or sell your products. So there's all these different ways to grow your business through that now, which is really cool. But I just think it's such a fun way because everything, it's all about the pictures. And so if you have great pictures on your page, people are going to be more engaged and excited. And I mean, there's so many cool pictures you can take with produce. So it's really easy to get people excited about different products and stuff by using Instagram. And it is kind of more where the younger generations are going to. They're not as into Facebook anymore and they're not as into Twitter, but they're really into to Instagram. So it's a great way to connect with younger people as well.
Because basically, well, 2 years ago, the big joke was, well, what's Instagram for? It's for showing people what you're eating.
But hey, that's a good thing for the produce industry.
Also, millennials are in the workforce now. Are companies changing the way we were told they were going to have to change in order to keep them happy and engaged in the workplace?
I think so. Going back to the person I was interviewing this morning, I was actually interviewing her for our Generation Next article, which is about younger people in the produce industry and kind of trying to highlight them and shine a little extra light on them. And she was saying that what she really loves so much about the produce industry is that there's so much room for growth for younger people and so many opportunities to be mentored and a lot of people who are willing to kind of take you under their wing and show you the ropes. And that's not can't really be said for every industry out there. The produce industry as a whole, I think, was maybe a little behind on the social media trend, but lately that's really been picking up. And I notice everybody's on it now on Instagram or on Facebook and have a really big social media presences. So I think that has definitely evolved. And I think they're, on a whole, doing a really good job at keeping younger people passionate and engaged in the industry and offering them a lot of room for growth, which is really important to the younger generations.
I came from a different industry, and one of the things that really struck me is, as you mentioned, that willingness to mentor within this industry is really, I think, something special. Through our own Passion for Produce program, that's something that we've really noticed, where people that are kind of the up-and-comers in the produce industry have an opportunity to interact with some senior people in the industry. And it's amazing to see them sit there and give the time and take questions seriously and provide their number saying, follow up with me. I don't think you'll get that in other industries. So there are a lot of associations or companies that are looking for ways to grow that leadership and really take advantage of that enthusiasm that the millennials have entering the workforce, while keeping in mind that there's still a lot of experience that needs to be passed on.
Yeah, I think a lot of the associations and organizations are doing a great job at trying to mentor young leaders. And like you said, you guys have your program. I know PMA has their Emerging Leaders program, which I got to be kind of a tiny part of at the PMA Fresh Summit in October and just kind of see what all those young people get to go through as part of their journey on the Emerging Leaders program. And it is really cool to watch them grow and find out what they've learned through the course of the program. And I think it's really neat that different organizations are taking the time out to mentor younger generations and kind of show them the ropes. And there's so much that we can learn from each other. The younger people might have a bit of an advantage as far as social media, but there's so much that we still have to learn from people who have been in this industry for 10, 20, 30 years. They have so much wisdom to share, and you can't put a price on that kind of experience.
Looking forward, let's say 5, 10 years down the road, what steps do you think companies need to be taking now, both in terms of engaging consumers and potential employees on social media, as well as keeping current employees happy? How are we going to keep those passionate people in the produce industry, and how are companies going to attract the shrinking workforce? How are they going to attract talent using some of these tools?
Well, personally, And from what I've heard from people who are, around my same age and younger working in the industry, that sense of teamwork is really important to our generation and to the younger ones. Kind of knowing that you're a part of something bigger and that all of your ideas and thoughts, that they matter and that they're being taken into consideration, and that there's somebody at your company who you can go to for advice, and that you can ask them any kind of question and they'll be willing to help you out. So I think that sense of teamwork is really important at a company. We kind of want it all, which can be a good and bad thing, but I think we're really passionate workers and we really want to be doing something with our careers and our time that we feel really strongly about. So I think just kind of cultivating that passion and creativity and, letting the workers kind of take a lead there is a good way to kind of keep them happy in the workplace. And also flexible schedules are important to the younger generations as well. So, if that means being able to work from home 1 or 2 days out of the week, being a little bit more flexible with vacation time and stuff like that. Of course, though, everything it should be earned as well. So, employees should always be putting in their work in order to receive those kind of benefits.
Definitely. And I don't know what it is like in the States, but I know in Canada, as our baby boomer population ages out of the workforce, we're actually facing shortages in a lot of industries. So there's going to be a lot of competition for workers. So making sure that you're providing that purpose that you've outlined, that teamwork, like that's going to be, I think it's going to be a huge thing moving forward. Yeah,
I agree. I think that especially with the younger generations, we have this kind of idea that's been like embedded into us at a young age that we, it's like you want to go for your dreams and you want a job that really you feel passionate about. And if you don't feel passionate about it, then, you shouldn't be doing it kind of thing. So I think that that's huge for the younger generations, is that they feel like they're a part of something bigger and that what they're working for has a good purpose and they enjoy doing it. So that's really important to us.
Did you want to tell us a little bit more about this Generation Next feature column that you guys have?
Our Generation Next column is one of my favorites to write when I get the chance to, but it's all about young people in the industry who are kind of making their mark. It's more of a feature article, so it's more fun. We get a little bit more into their personal lives and their background, what kind of led them to the produce industry, what they love so much, and their specific roles in particular, and kind of the challenges they face, ways that they've overcome those, rewarding parts about working in the industry. It's really neat because I always feel like after I interview somebody or write one of those articles, I feel more inspired in return because you hear about all these wonderful things that they're doing to help further their companies and their businesses.
How do you find those people? Are they recommended to you, or are these people that are standouts? How do you find the people that you want to identify as the next generation of produce?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked about that because we are always looking for new people to feature in our Generation Next column. We find new people by meeting them at the trade shows, meeting them face to face, and also though, if anybody knows someone who they think would make for a great Generation Next feature, they can always email us at newsdesk@theproducenews.com. Also, if you yourself are a young person in the produce industry and you think that this article is a good fit for you, you can also feel free to email us and just let us know if you're interested in being featured in the Generation Next article. Only criteria we really have is that the age range is usually 35 and under. And yeah, it's really anybody in the produce industry who is making a positive difference and who is working hard at their job and loves to be in the industry and working in produce.
Thank you very much, Maggie.
Thank you.
And it's time to take a quick break to hear from our sponsor, Nature Fresh Farms. We're checking in with Ray. Hi, Ray.
Happy New Year, everyone, from Nature Fresh Farms. A new year calls for new resolutions, and one of the most common goals set by consumers is to eat more fruit and vegetables and lead healthier lives. At Nature Fresh Farms, we are always promoting healthier lifestyle choices. From sharing easy nutritional recipe ideas on our website to engaging with local school groups to discuss the importance of healthy eating, our commitment to education in these categories will always be strong. Nature Fresh Farms is here to help everyone achieve their healthy lifestyle goals, both in 2018 and beyond. For some easy, quick tips on how you can eat healthier in 2018, check out our website at naturefresh.ca as well as halfyourplate.com.
Great, and now back to the conversation. And now, to bring an international perspective to the podcast, we have Matthew Ogg, who's the editor with Fresh Fruit Portal, joining us. Matthew, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Jason. It's always a pleasure.
Looking at this now, you have noticed a trend in the produce industry that has to do with the actual retail stores themselves. Maybe you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Maybe it's not particularly new, and that is that a lot of traditional retail stores are getting a lot smaller now. And I think that the effect, and then what I'm hearing about the effect of that, there's less space. So the shelves have always been hot property for the produce sector, and every category vying for their spots. And I think now that's going to get tougher. And that's coupled with another trend that companies, whether big or small, are really trying to find niches with new products. They're trying to get that premium. No one wants to be a commodity anymore. So you have this dual issue of new product introductions, and a lot of them, and also the fact that there's perhaps less space on the shelves. So how do those two issues reconcile themselves? I'm not too sure. We'll have to wait and see.
So moving forward, I guess, it kind of leads to a question. Is there still room for maybe players that aren't large international players on the shelves? Or is that going to become more of an issue moving forward for people just trying to just break in there?
I think that the international players do have an advantage. But like we've seen in many markets around the world, there's still a lot of demand for local. So if you have a local product or a niche product, or particularly a healthy product, something that's eye-catching, for example, Marks and Spencer's just launched their seedless avocado range. That was big news recently. Things like that, they might not be year-round. They could just be for a few weeks, a few months. I think there'll be more room for products like that. And I think that the year-round campaigns for the produce staples like grapes, citrus, apples, and the list goes on, that's always going to be there. But there will perhaps be more short-term niches, and they could be a point of difference for the retailers. But it is true that the smaller players, if they want to break into that, they are going to have to work very hard on their marketing campaigns and stay creative.
You're talking about more and more products sitting on the shelf, so greater product diversity. That's something we've heard before. So what do you think is really driving that? And we're looking at an international perspective, right? So what's driving the change and the variety that's available? Are people looking for different things?
I would put it down largely to the internet. It sounds very simplistic, but I think it has to do with the fact that more people are reading sources from a wide range of articles around the world. They have more access to knowing what different products are out there. I would say that people are becoming more open. And with the rise of online retailers and online suppliers, these products are becoming more increasingly available.
So is that something that's happening? I know that online growth is happening here as well as in China, but in other parts of the world, is the rate the same as we're seeing in North America and China?
Where I live in Chile, I would say no, it's not. Here in South America, it's not too widespread yet. In Australia, where I'm from, it's certainly taking off. And in fact, one of the major retailers, Woolworths, has set up a strong online or pick up the service to try and compete with Amazon, who is coming on the scene. And in Europe, I would say that yes, there's a lot more delivery services out there. A lot of the times that's more in the restaurant space, the prepared meals. However, that's another issue with the smaller store formats and the general convenience trend that's going towards, is that I find that sometimes the sections of supermarkets are becoming a bit blurred. You're having prepared food in the produce section. Markets are using fresh produce in different ways, perhaps, than they were before.
So what's driving this trend towards a smaller store in general and less room for product?
Less time. People are pressed for time in their lives. They're working long hours. They often have long commutes. They often want to get their shopping done quickly, but they also want to have an experience when they do it. So they want it to be short and sweet and satisfy their needs.
So you mentioned that this isn't necessarily new, but it's been something that's been happening for a while. So let's look forward to next year. What does the next year look like as we move forward with this particular area?
Yeah, like I was saying, trends can often take many years to materialize. So if I I were to make any sort of prediction, it might not even occur next year, but it would be something that I think will happen, is that whatever produce that doesn't fit into these new formats of the smaller stores, I think it will find a place online. And I think the greengrocers will be able to benefit. I mean, markets work that way. If the produce is out there, it will find a home. It's just the teething process, the adjustment can sometimes be difficult.
So we could be reversing the trend that happened before, moving away from greengrocers to more consolidated stores, but actually online could drive towards greengrocers having specialists.
Sure, and I think that we can't underestimate the importance of communities, and communities often want local. I mean, where you're from in Canada, I don't know if you're aware, but Moochie Farms, they set up a greenhouse just 3 hours drive south of the border so they can grow produce and label it as locally grown. People really care about local for the United States market. So people really care about local, and people like to have that sense of connection with the grower. You see that incorporated in the marketing materials of a lot of the large companies. But there are a proliferation of small sites that agglomerate different growers in the area, and then people can know who they're purchasing from. I think we're going to see more of that. We're going to have a mix of people maybe going to the supermarkets for their international produce perhaps, and trying to build those relationships with local growers.
Excellent. Is there anything that you want to touch on that I haven't hit?
One issue that we haven't discussed, and one thing that I think could be a relevant side effect of all of this. So if you have smaller stores, that requires faster movement of produce, and it requires a more stringent and demanding shelf appearance. And with that, you're going to have a lot more waste in plastic, I feel, and perhaps a lot more food waste, because people, even though the ugly produce movement is strong, there are a lot of people who still demand beautiful-looking produce, especially if they're going to be paying the sort of premiums that these niche products are going for sometimes. And I am seeing, when I travel around the world, a lot more fruit wrapped in plastic, and I don't feel on a personal level that fits with the sustainable image that the produce industry wants to convey. It's a tricky issue. There needs to be a discussion around plastic recycling and how that's going to work so as to preserve the industry's image. I think that could become a key issue.
Interesting. So as the produce industry moves forward with these smaller stores, that's gonna create problems in terms of sustainability and social license.
Smaller stores is perhaps a symptom of the same issue of convenience. People want a convenient, good to ready-to-go product, and perceptions are that that's often going to be something that's wrapped in plastic. I think that's why a lot of supermarkets are going down that route. A lot of people who I speak to ask me about this as well, because I'm a millennial, as you say, and a lot of people in my generation think it's ridiculous that there's so much plastic in the produce aisle, and they want to know what's going on. And, you know, as someone who works in this industry, I often have to kind of answer for the industry, and I say, well, you know, often the industry is struggling to compete with products that are beautifully marketed with lots of packaging, and they have to operate in that space and to ultimately drive consumption. But what if, in fact, consumers are looking for something different?
Awesome, Matthew. Thank you very much. I appreciate the time.
All right, thanks, Dave. Bye.
And joining me now is Dr. Sara Celik, a naturopathic doctor from Toronto, the spokesperson for New Life, and a contributor to Grocery Business, to tell us all about a topic that they've seen emerging. Sarah, you want to tell us all about it?
Definitely, I'd love to. So thank you, Jason, for having me on to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is the gut. Gut health is on trend for a lot of reasons. Number one, I think a lot of people are experiencing digestive-related health issues, so they're looking for answers. They're going to the internet, they're reading, they're learning more about it. And we know that the gut is linked to a lot of health problems and health conditions that people experience. So it's trending for that reason. I'd say that consumers are really leading this trend and leading this movement because of their interest in figuring out what's happening with their own health.
So what is gut health?
Okay, so gut health is a pretty generalized term to describe what's happening with the digestive system. So ensuring that people are digesting their foods well, that there's not a lot of inflammation in the gut, that people, of course, are eating a healthy diet that promotes better gut health. There's a Greek physician, Hippocrates, that said 2,000 years ago that all disease begins in the gut. I don't know if I necessarily agree with him that all disease begins in the gut, but we know today, thanks to research, that a lot of conditions are linked to poor gut health. A lot of allergies that people are experiencing, inflammatory conditions, even headaches and fatigue can be linked to poor gut health.
So what we're really talking about is kind of the balance of the bacteria that makes up our gut, right?
That's part of it, absolutely. So we want great amounts of friendly bacteria in the gut, but we also want to reduce inflammation. And really that starts with food. So I always talk about what are people eating and what are they putting into their body. We know that diet plays a really big role in overall health and well-being.
Bringing this back to fresh fruit and vegetables, what's the role that fresh fruit and vegetables play in this topic?
Fresh fruit and vegetables are high in fiber. So that's what's most important when I'm trying to talk to my patients about adding more fruits and vegetables into their diet. It's really because Canadians aren't getting enough fiber, and we need to figure out ways to increase that in the diet is one of the best ways to do that. So fruits and vegetables, an avocado, for example, can add 9 grams of fiber to a person's diet. Really easy to increase fiber in the diet by simply adding more fruits and vegetables in. So with additional fiber, we know that people will have healthier digestion. It will help balance their blood sugars. And even with cardiovascular conditions, we know that people generally aren't getting enough fiber in their diet.
So how are you finding that this trend is influencing consumer choices now? Like, are consumers, is it kind of mainstream? Is it on the way to being mainstream? Where are consumers at with it?
Every day it's increasing. So I would say there's more to come. Definitely it's on trend now. People are looking for ways to be healthier. If you ask somebody who's trying to be healthier what advice they've been given in terms of how much vegetables they're consuming, a lot of them will say they're having about half of their plate at dinner with just vegetables. So it's on trend now, but I think that there's a lot more to come. I think that people are still trying to figure out ways to lead a balanced lifestyle where they can enjoy some of the foods they love and increase more fruits and more vegetables in their diet. I know that I see a lot of people that even now they're skipping dessert and they're choosing fruit over dessert. Or if they're baking, they're actually starting to use ingredients like sweet potato and squash and beets and carrots. And they're using these ingredients in place of sugar when they're baking goods. So that's really great to see as well, is that people are really trying to get creative in the kitchen and incorporate fruits and vegetables into their diet and into some of the foods that they love.
So how does this work? How does somebody determine how healthy their gut is? Is there some sort of test that can be done in a lab someplace?
There are definitely tests that you can do with your naturopathic doctor. You can do food sensitivity testing to see if you're reacting to foods. Now there are certain tests where people will send in stool samples to map how much good bacteria they have versus how much bad bacteria. So we're definitely on the way when we look at, wow, how can we really assess a person's health and well-being through testing? But there's also a lot of questions that you can simply ask yourself to see how healthy your gut is. For example, are you experiencing gas and bloating? Do you have heartburn? Do you find that you have healthy bowel movements? These are all really good indicators of a person's digestive health. So we want to make sure that people aren't experiencing these symptoms, that they aren't experiencing uncomfortable symptoms, and that they do have optimal digestive health.
Now I think even if I'm having a really bad day at work, at least I'm not the person that's responsible for opening the packages that people are sending their stool samples in.
That's funny. It's amazing. There's a lot of websites now that are also offering this test. So you don't even know sometimes who's receiving your package.
So is this, and I'm not meaning to sound condescending with this, but we see a lot of, well, this is how you're supposed to eat. And it seems like every couple of years there's a new kind of thing that we're supposed to pay attention to. So it sounds like this is based on sound science. So is this a fad, or is this just part of like a trend of lifestyle influencers?
I agree with you that every year there's a new diet trend. There's something else that's come out there that people are trying to follow. But what I will say is that fiber has always been part of any trend. So that is consistent. And where do we get fiber from? Fruits and vegetables are some of the best sources of fiber. So that's where people are always going to have fruits and vegetables as part of their diet, no matter which program or diet they're following or which trend seems to be popular at any given time.
So why is this starting to be more of a trend now? Are retailers and food service starting to take notice? Like, are they doing something to help push this?
They are. So they're supporting education in stores. A lot of retailers are even offering community cooking classes, community lectures and seminars to really educate their customers and really emphasize the importance of living a healthier lifestyle. So I would say retailers are really supporting this movement, and consumers are really the ones who are driving this movement because they're looking for ways to lead a healthier lifestyle. As we know, Canadians are also really busy, so they want it to be simple and easy. How can they choose foods that are going to support better gut health and also not really disrupt their life or require too much time to prepare?
So if you do some research on this topic, two big things popped up for me. One is that there seems to be a lot of supplements that are kind of associated with this trend. Are the supplements being pushed in such a way that it's taking people away from fresh fruit and vegetables?
I think that really is a great point. People, of course, are looking for fast and easy. So if they can get something in a pill form, they usually do opt for that option. However, that being said, the two go together. So as people are preparing, say, fruit smoothies at breakfast, or they're choosing to have more vegetables at dinner in combination with pasta. So this is a great example. People used to have a big bowl of pasta. Now they'll have a little bit of pasta with a lot of vegetables. So they're not even always giving up the foods that they love. They're just adding in more of the good stuff. But I would say definitely it's something that is really for us to look at.
So the other thing that I found, and this was reported in Scientific America, that the gut bacteria actually influence the host choice in what food they reach for and which food they eat. So I realize that it's kind of early with that research from what I understand, but I guess this could be a real influence on eating healthy choices. So how much of an influence do you see that moving forward?
A huge influence. So gut bacteria is an area of study for a lot of researchers right now. It's very exciting for all of us because we're learning so much about gut bacteria and just how much they influence us. Like you said, they can influence, for a lot of people, they say they can influence decisions. Food cravings may be influenced by bacteria. So we're in the really early stages of this research. It's hard for me to say yes or no, but it's exciting and it's interesting. What I see in terms of the future, where grocery is going, is people are going to look for ways to really feed their microbiome or feed this bacteria. Because in order to have healthy gut bacteria, we actually have to keep them alive and feed them. And what do they eat? Well, they eat fiber. So undigested fiber is something that they feed on, which is why I encourage patients to have garlic, onions, artichokes, bananas. These are some of the foods that feed the gut bacteria. But I see the future in grocery is really going to be aisles of foods that feed the microbiome and feed this gut bacteria, because really they are drivers in our health. And we know, if we look at the research, and we're in the very early stages, these bacteria really do influence our health and well-being in so many ways.
So we're basically one step away from being those zombie ants that get taken over by bacteria.
I don't know about that, but that's a good way of looking at it.
So in the next year, what do you think we're going to see, particularly with this trend as it relates to fresh fruit and vegetables?
So we're hearing a lot about probiotics, but we're also hearing a lot about prebiotics. Prebiotics, again, is the food that feeds the probiotic bacteria. That's where fiber comes in. So people are really shopping for more fruits and more vegetables. They're looking for fiber-rich foods, and they're also looking for foods that feed the gut bacteria. So I see in the next year just more growth, more awareness, more consumer awareness, and retailers and grocery are really doing their part in educating consumers as well, which I think is fantastic to see.
So you really see this as a trend that will help drive consumption moving forward?
I do. And to be honest, I don't even know if it's a trend. I think gut health is here to stay. I think we're onto something, and I think it's going to be around for a very, very long time. I am curious to see where we go with gut health and grocery. I know fruits and vegetables are definitely a first choice, but even consumer packaged goods, what kind of foods are going to make it to the marketplace to help with feeding the microbiome? I'm really interested. I'm really curious. And I don't know if it's a trend. I really, really do think it's here to stay.
And that's it. That's all that we have for you this month on Produce Talks. The first part of our conversation was excellent, as was our second. This episode, I'd like to thank Maggie, Matthew, and Sarah for providing us with their opinions and their viewpoints. I'd like to thank Selena for stopping by. I'd like to thank Nature Fresh Farms, as always, our sponsor. We're very grateful for the support that you give. And I'd like to thank you for listening. Remember, 2018 is going to be an amazing year filled with innovations and trends that will change produce forever. That's why it's important to continue to gain new skills, to explore and keep learning, and to basically never stop growing.
You will now be disconnected by the moderator.